Freckle has raised over $6 million to make this possible for teams who don't just have a technical RevOps genius in-house.
You might have really meaningful leads that are already in your pipeline that you're not capturing.
But you argue that the real unlock is improving conversion on existing demand.
There's an education gap to like how important data is, and like the whole point of data enrichment showed them there was a way to use their LinkedIn data as more of an active lead gen mechanism instead of just like a passive billboard for their product. Yeah, it can be really hard to know what you can do with data and data enrichment if you can't see it.
There's a big shift that everybody's seeing when it comes to how every activity that every single business does, the end goal is how do we drive more revenue. What is one simple experiment that they could run using Freckle over the next 30 days to prove that timing beats volume every single time? Welcome back to Go-to-Market Gurus Unplugged. We've all heard that outbound is getting harder, and today we're looking at Freckle.io. We all know that the spray and pray era of outbound is dead, unfortunately, but the new game is won at the point of interest, finding the buyer at the exact moment they have a problem, and of course, hitting them with relevance, not just volume. So with that being said, we're now introducing Freckle. Freckle has raised over $6 million to make this possible for teams who don't just have a technical RevOps genius in-house. And that's why today I'm joined by the one and only Mr. Andy, who leads up and heads up growth of Freckle to unplug how they help non-technical teams use AI to find those magical signals and turn them into pipeline. Andy, thank you so much, man, for jumping on. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, man, thanks for having me. I'm pumped that we finally got some time together.
Let's get it. So, of course, within the world of all things go-to-market, all things Freckle.io, as it were, like, love what you guys are doing, love the brand you guys are building. And I think, it has to be said question-wise, how do you guys, most RevOps teams obviously hit a number when it comes to scaling volume, but you argue that the real unlock is improving conversion on existing demand. Really big claim there, right? So walk us through a Freckle workflow where better qualification increases revenue without adding like headcount or lead volume.
Yeah, I mean, the real unlock is definitely improving conversion on existing demand. I think at any startup, the goal is predictable revenue. Like having predictable revenue, that's how you can fundraise. So like teams are normally like, all right, I'm doing this outbound, whatever. I have a certain conversion rate on emails. So if I send more emails, that means more conversions, and that's how they increase, bringing in revenue. But I think what that misses is you might have really meaningful leads that are already in your pipeline that you're not capturing. And just by increasing volume, you're not going to, do better at increasing that conversion rate.
Yeah.
So those people that are really good in your pipeline need to be engaged in a different way. Like a lot of these companies, these like Series A, Series B, even later, you have velocity, you fundraise because you have a great product and you have people that want it. And so you need to find the right people who are coming in and saying, raising their hand that they want your product. And you need to make sure that you're engaging them quickly and effectively and, meeting them where they're at. So, for us, I think for a lot of startups in the space, team capacity is a huge constraint. Like, how do you work smarter, not harder? People are always talking about augmenting with AI. I think right now the flex is no longer like, I built a 100-person company. It's like, I built a 10 million ARR company with 10 people. Like that's the flex now. So there's a good story is we just did this case study with Bolt.new. They're a lovable competitor.
Okay. Ooh.
Yeah. They're killers. So they were doing 60,000 signups a day. It's like, the dream for any startup. Like,
okay.
Yeah. Like
Jeez,
everybody wants that. But like 98% of those were personal emails. And so they weren't doing anything with them. They weren't like qualified leads to them. So we sat down with them, at Freckle, you get really direct hands-on support from, not like a nameless CSM, but like me jumping in, head of growth, or Emily, our head of ops, or, Nathan, our founder. We jump in, we did a review and identified that like we could actually enrich a lot of those personal emails. And we found over 70 qualified enterprise leads who, were some significant prospects just in the first month of data. And that translated to 1.7 million in open pipeline. And 23% of the deals they were actively going after that month.
So like, don't you find that interesting, right? It wasn't about more output. It was obviously about intentionally I guess being intentional where people were looking. And if everybody listening to this today, like, looking at your CRM, having a CRM that is up to date, relevant, as it were, like all the data is where it needs to fundamentally be, but also as well, number two, spending time to pause and be like, rather than hitting, the inboxes even more so or doing more, it's like, what can we do with what we actually have? Someone actually told me that the other day, not within this field, but they were saying that when you do have a small team, there's only so much you can do delivery and you can obviously do like the sourcing of new opportunities, right? And
Hmm.
there's always a fight between those two worlds. And she said the best way to grow is typically to get more out of who you've already qualified as a good opportunity. But again, you don't know that if your data isn't up to date, and of course you haven't got a system in place to kind of tell you that, right? So the fact that that's 1.1 over 1 million in opportunity
Yeah.
is crazy. That says a lot. That says a lot.
And just like unrealized, like things that they already had. I mean, even for us personally, there would be no way I could reach out to every person that signs up for Freckle, but
Yeah.
and like I would love to, you know what I mean? Like that would be awesome if I could. I want to, but there's just no way. So we need to make sure we're prioritizing. And it's really good in go to market, but once you have like if you're able to score people that are signing up for your product,
Yes.
Bolt is now using us for support tickets to make sure that when someone reaches out and has a question, if they're a top tier user, they're dealing with them faster. I've also used it for like product analytics of like, who of our ICPs getting through onboarding versus just like
Yeah.
everyone. Like there's a lot of ways where this shows up as value.
And I think, although just the final point, I think like on that note of like social or just intent, right? Or signals in general. I
Yeah.
think obviously for every business listening to this, the signals of which will drive the most valuable naturally differ. But it's a conversation you typically have with your clients, a conversation around, okay, great. What are you looking to achieve? These are the relevant signals that we found to drive the most opportunity. Like, what is the process you would say that you would walk through? Because I don't think everybody understands or knows, like, what signals are now with the companies that we speak to on a regular basis. It's like a new concept to them in the sense of you can engineer signals by doing X, Y, and Z, but then you need a system to track those to then take action, right? So, like, how do you, I guess, ensure that the people you are working with are tracking the right signals, or how do you guide them to that the endpoint, if that makes sense?
Yeah, that's it. That does make sense. So like the question being like, how do we help guide people to finding the right signals
Yeah,
is, a matter of really understanding their business needs and who their ICP is and what those signals are for them. I think everyone that like I'm on calls all the time where someone's like, "Can you do this thing?" Like we're so niche. I'm like, "Yeah, like everyone's niche." Uh, so being able to like sit down, identify those is really important. At the same time, no matter how niche anyone is, like tracking if someone changes their job title, if someone changes their company, and if they're like actively engaging with your product are the
yeah.
signals that matter the most. So like
Let's get it. Yeah,
knowing
trust me.
when knowing when someone signs in, you know, making sure that when someone signs up or fills out a demo request, you're dealing with it. Like those are high intent. Other things are like cool and it's lead gen and like how do you go do a little warmer than cold outreach, but like really hammer home like go after those people that are raising their hand saying I want to talk to you.
Yeah, no, I love that. I love that. It's like I had to be fair, I did become a client, well, a client in the end in terms of I invested in their service. But I
Yeah.
remember I think it was like a few months. I signed up to a demo a few months before I actually ended up investing in it. But it like freaked me out because I opened an email to like read, like pre-read like a conversation that sorry, read again, go over a conversation
Mhm.
we had. Like, within, like, I think 3 minutes, I had an email back, like, an email, like, just because I didn't even email him,
Yeah.
and I was like and I had to call him out, I was like, "Bro, like, is this automated, or is it, like, the fact that I'm just because this is just freaky, like, you've just emailed me as I've opened this email," and he's like,
Yeah.
"No, da-da," but again, like, for me, that's an opportunity because at that very moment, for example, like, I was very much on the line of making a decision, and just because, like, he reached out to me within those 10 minutes of me opening that email, like, and yeah, whether it was automated or not, but the point is that if you have mass signups and you've got, as you said, you've got so much traction from a business or product or a service, whatever it might be, like you need to be able to facilitate. There might be so many opportunities you're missing. So again, I love the fact you said that. Nice. Sorry, I could talk about that for ages. So in terms
No,
of like,
yeah, like, dude, like,
sorry, go ahead, go ahead.
I feel like so I remember the first time I went to RB2B's, like the de-anonymization tools website, and I got a LinkedIn message from the founder right away. Or like HubSpot does the thing when you go to the pricing page, they'll call you. And
Yeah.
like everyone kind of knows it now. Like I feel like it's not quite as creepy as it used to be. It's like everyone
So
wants to do things like that, and it's hard to know if you go to Zapier or where that data lives, or you do N8N.
yeah,
I actually like we have a notification gets sent in Slack when our high priority leads who are in our deal pipeline log into our product, and it's like a great time to go reach out to them because they're already thinking about us. Uh, and I don't know if I would have known how to do that if I wasn't using Freckle. It's just like I don't know, easier to use.
But I guess on that point, right, it's a nice
Yeah.
transition to positioning, right? There's in terms of the whole, freckle is typically called, clay without the learning curve, right? I've seen that a lot online a lot. I know that a lot of people refer to you guys as a strong alternative. So in a market that usually rewards, more complexity, why was it like a strategic go-to-market move for you guys to focus more so on your usability and like a spreadsheet first UI for like non-technical users?
Yeah, I mean, it was definitely a strategic go-to-market move to focus on usability because, I mean, like bottom line, you shouldn't have to hire an agency, a consultant, attend a boot camp to figure out how to work with your data, how to enrich data. Um, that's at least what we believe at Freckle. And like, they're spreadsheet based tools. They're like workflow based tools. They're like developer forward tools. I can't imagine like using the other ones that aren't spreadsheets based now that I've been using Freckle so much. And so, yeah, I mean, we're built for people who are, under pressure to meet revenue goals. They have messy data that they're like, it's brutal to work with. I'm on calls where people are like, yeah, our CRM is garbage, like, to be honest. And then they don't have time to spend like hours and hours to ramp into a super complicated tool and to access that information. And like, yeah, we're simple, but like definitely there's a lot you can still do in Freckle. It's a product where if you're a really good go-to-market engineer, you can run some really complex go-to-market motions.
Let's
Uh,
get it.
but but like we also built a product for customers that sales reps can go into, use the product, they can, enrich the data they need before a sales call or while they're prospecting, and they don't have to go tap that go-to-market engineer, RevOps team, or even, developer to go build that for them. And we have hundreds of sales reps as users now who can vouch for that. Like, there's like a classic trope in tech that everyone saves time, money, and hassle. And like, it's funny. And like, that's what everyone's website says. But at the end of the day, like, it's true. Like, if a product genuinely does those things, it's a great product. And I think Freckle is definitely a product that does that. Like, it allows people to have the functionality they need without, the huge hassle of mastering and spending time on a really highly technical solution.
And guys, and this is why Andy's head of growth, man. He just snapping those up. And that's nice, man. I like that a lot. I like that a lot. I think
Yeah.
like what's interesting, like the more I speak to, it might be obviously different in UK, US side, right? But like when it comes to the startups that we speak to here, I think that there isn't typically, I guess, the mindset of like people don't think like this in the sense of, you know what, there is a way to engineer conversations, drive certain signals, and there is a simple way of, it's only when we get to it's only when we get X amount of investment, it's only when we get bought out or acquired, we can do because the enterprise clients that we have typically have these functions inbuilt, right? So it's like,
Yeah.
they have a RevOps team, they have a GTM engineer who's doing all this stuff behind the scenes. But when if you've just got investment, you're a small startup as it were, you're trying to compete maybe with the big guys. You've time is money, right? Like you haven't got a
Yeah.
ton of time and you want to maximize every opportunity. I think the more people understand that there's a world that exists where you don't need to be a technical wizard to build some of these things out, I think the better everybody's life would naturally be because it does create so much opportunity, as you've already highlighted earlier on in this conversation.
But like we sell to go to market engineers all the time and like RevOps leaders. And it's awesome when they jump on a call because they already like know what's going on. Uh, it's like a much easier sell. And like it helps for, ramping up new team members who like don't know the tools you're already using. It's getting the rest of the non-technical team in is, obviously super nice as well. But like, it's really fun when I get on a call with like a more like old head sales leader person who like
Yeah.
they're coming in, they're like, everyone's talking about AI. I'm like kind of scared to do it. Like, how does this work? And I just type in like, find this person's job title, and they're like, whoa. I had this guy ask me if I could figure out their hobbies, like someone's like a
Raw.
prospect's hobbies, and I was like, where
Oh,
do you know where you would find that? He's like, I guess not. Like that's that's true.
I can't lie. That's some next level. That's the next level of personalization. If you can, you know what I mean. I swear you're into X, Y,
Yeah.
Z. Da, 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 da. That when that starts happening, then it starts to get creepy. I'm not gonna lie to you. This is why you should be
Yeah.
safe with where you put information online, guys. Like,
Yeah, we're not finding hobbies unless you're talking about it
like
online.
no, but again, but it does show. I think in terms of anything that is fundamentally out there, I think there's like obviously it links really nicely to brand as well. But I think when it comes to personalization, anyways, is as good I guess what's currently on the line, right? What's currently on the internet, what you can find on socials, what can be scraped. I'm assuming the the more niche or the less social a company might be. Maybe that's a good question, good argument, right? Would you say that it's easier for these tools to do you need a lot of data, right, to be able for them to ultimately be useful? Because it's like if you are maybe operating within a really niche space, and let's just say there isn't a ton to scrape, to source from, as it were, to build
Yeah.
out. Like, how do you guys overcome situations like that? I'm sure you've had situations in the past where you've got weird requests have come through and it's like, "Can we do that?"
Yeah.
Like, what's the approach?
Yeah. I think there's more stuff online than you might expect, but it's one of the nice parts about the way that Freckle has been built is we have both a little over 50 data providers that we're pulling data
Wow, amazing.
from. So if you compare us to a Zoom Info, to an Apollo, like some people use us in tandem. We use Apollo, like they're good tools. I'm not saying that they're not, but we're able to access a lot of different pieces of data where some data providers are good for European leads and some are good for US. And uh, but let's say like none of those data providers are good for, finding restaurant owners or something because people don't exist on LinkedIn. We work with this company called Class Dojo. They're an ed tech company.
Okay. I've heard of them. Yeah, I
They
think I've heard
look
of them.
for, yeah, you heard of that? Yeah, they're
Yeah.
huge. They've been killing.
Yeah.
They were looking for contact information for leadership at schools. Like for
Yeah.
that kind of thing, you don't need a data provider because it's all publicly accessible. So like being able to have a single tool that has access to the data, but can also go and find it online, and you don't have to think through like where do I go find it? You just ask has been like a huge unlock for teams.
Love that. No, I love that. I love that. I think when it comes to what I really love is number one, the passion behind obviously the problem that you guys solve and how you approach it. Like every time you've given me an example about something, like it's clearly you just get excited about it, which is awesome. So I think when it comes to obviously data enrichment, CRM hygiene, those are typically like pretty unsexy problems to solve, right? So how is Freckle used like show don't tell content to get people excited about data cleaning, and what can people learn from it and use from it as well? Like, and how did you go about doing that? If that made sense, it's a very long-winded
I
question,
mean,
but
I don't know who's saying it's unsexy. I think nah. No, I think there's an education gap to like how
yeah,
important data is and like the whole point
yeah,
of data enrichment because data isn't important for data's sake. Like data is only because of what you can do with it. And like for every startup, like the goal is, chasing revenue. So like
of course.
a good example of this was of like this social selling and like show not tell was when I first started at Freckle, it was like my second post on LinkedIn. It was obviously going to be a big part of our strategy. A good example of this was that, like, when I was first starting at Freckle, we knew that posting on LinkedIn was going to be a big lever, like go-to-market lever for us. And it was my second post. I posted about this workflow I built. Well, first, like, it it hurt at first to start posting on LinkedIn. I knew it worked, but it's still a little cringy for me. But regardless, we built this workflow where when someone engages with my posts, I use Freckle to score them, and then if they're like a high tier person at like a good company, I reach out to them. Um, it's still one of our really high converting campaigns. But like day of after posting that, this like awesome prospect reached out as this RevOps leader at a fast growing Series A startup. It was like, the kind of logo we want to put on our logo wall. And he DM'd me that his chief business officer had just asked him to start tracking enriching LinkedIn engagement for
Hey,
their
okay.
sales org. Yeah. And he like didn't know where to start. We got on a call. It was like super clear he didn't even know you could do that kind of thing with LinkedIn data. And so by posting the workflow rather than just like, do data enrichment, he was able to really see what was possible. It showed them there was a way to use their LinkedIn data as more of an active lead gen mechanism instead of just like a passive billboard for their product. And that you needed data enrichment as a path to get there. So I think, yeah, it can be really hard to know what you can do with data and data enrichment if you can't see it. And there are so many cool things that you can do with it. But if you're not thinking about it all the time, like we are, like it's like all I do, it's really overwhelming.
Yeah,
Yeah,
makes
like
sense.
I get on sales calls all the time where people are like, I've heard of Freckle, heard of data enrichment. All right, like what do I do? Like like so what? So yeah, I mean, I think posting about it, showing and inspiring potential customers and prospects, it's like a really good way to get people excited about, making their data work for them and, not working for their data. The most exciting thing in any company is closing deals. Like it's fun. You hit a gong, like whatever you're doing. When I can show how better data and good data enrichment workflows lead directly to revenue, I think data is all of a sudden pretty sexy.
I think you know what that's really interesting about what you've said, right? I think the fact that from your content as well, I've been following you for a while now and big fan of it. At least I was going through my saved actually yesterday. You know, the
Yeah.
worst, just FYI, by the way, if LinkedIn, if you're listening to this, you got to just sort out your save folders because
It's
awful
impossible.
organization. It's
Awful.
impossible. Like
I have
I
to
would,
remember where to find it.
literally every single day, side point, every single day, I think to myself, you know what? Like, I'm going to build a tool that just does this and just gives it away for free for everybody. Anyways, complete side point. But
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
I'll scroll it. To be fair, there's a lot of posts that I have saved from your content because
So,
what I love is that we are showing the workflow behind like how to actually achieve an end goal, how to get to a said place. I'll wait for them to go upstairs. How we actually get to how we get to an endpoint because I think the data as a whole, as you've highlighted, isn't really a sexy thing. People know it's important. People know how to, you need to track X, Y, Z. But what you can do with it is really what matters. And what I love is that you guys are showing the end product where there is that emotional connection. There is an emotional, I guess, justification behind. As you said, I want to be able to celebrate. I want to be able to drive my revenues, or I want to be able to buy X, Y, Z. And fundamentally, by tracking these types of signals and enriching this type of data and implementing these types of workflows, which is really where the magic lies, this is how you get to the end point. And I think what I also love as well, just as a side point, as someone I would class myself as a non-technical guy in the sense that
mhm.
I'm not a traditional go-to-market engineer. I don't know how to plug in 101 different tech stacks. We have that built for ourselves now, but I had to hire and bring in a GTM engineer, right? Like, and it was, and even still, like, there's elements I'm like, I want to know how it works, is just to know, but it's still like overly complicated. Whereas what I love is the simplicity behind one, your content, but also as well how you guys position the workflows, how you guys show how do you get from point A to point B. Here is what possible because you start getting super creative. Like as you know, the fact that someone's asking about hobbies the other day just shows like if you start thinking
Yeah.
about it in the right way,
Yeah.
anything really is possible. So yeah, big fan of like the show don't
Yeah.
tell and how
I
you guys are
appreciate that.
positioning these workflows. Yeah, man.
I appreciate
Um,
that. Yeah. I mean, it like the best thing ever. I got a DM the other day from someone who's like currently like in pipe, like I'm trying to close a deal with, and he was like, "Hey, I just saw this post, and it was from Nathan, our founder. He was
yeah,
like, can we do this?" And I was like,
love that.
"Exactly, like
See,
exactly,
yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Would you say
it's great."
typically right? Because again, keeping in mind your positioning, because you've obviously got people who are super experienced, who
Mhm.
understand that world of got just the whole GTM space and social selling and signals. My dog's barking now. On the other side, right, of the coin, you obviously got. Assume I knew nothing about. Let's just assume I knew nothing about go-to-market engineering.
Mhm.
How does the conversation change? Because it's like, is there more of a sell that's naturally required to get somebody on board to use Freckle to, does that make sense? Because it must be
Yeah,
different.
so the, like, way I think about it is, like, when a friend asks me what Freckle like, what I do, like, my first question is, like, do they know what a CRM is? It's like,
Yeah.
let's get, like, a baseline foundation of where are we at? So,
Yeah.
like, that's, like, the first stage, and, like, if I'm explaining it to my mom, I'm using, like, we help figure out things about people who want something from your business. It's, like,
See, listen, if
really
you can
simple.
explain it to your mom, you're on it, bro. You've got it. You've got it.
Uh,
There you go.
but like when we get on a sales call, people obviously know kind of what they're doing. And there's like the what do I want to do with Freckle step. And people who are RevOps, go to market engineers are coming in saying, I already know what I want to do. And then there's the people who don't, and I have to, walk them through, understand where they're at and figure out what does make sense for them. And then there's the, how do I build it? Go to market engineers who are go to market engineers. Sometimes people come in, they self-serve, but like when I'm jumping on a call, I think we're really good at using our product. I use our product every day. I try to be our biggest power user. So even I was just on a call with this prospect who is a massive Clay customer. He was like, we've got all of our prompts drilled in, and we're getting like a 94% hit rate on certain data points. And I was like, let me take a look, and I got it up to 100. Like I think there's still stuff to learn,
Nice.
and so it's just different types of teaching, I guess, and different types of conversations.
No, I love that. I think the biggest takeaway, guys, is basically ensure that you can explain what you do to your mom, and make sure you speak to her. That's what I took. No, I'm joking. I'm joking. That's not the biggest takeaway. But no, I understand that. Obviously, different teaching points, different users. Of course, like adjusting the approach based on obviously you're speaking to, so they can get the most out of the product. But yeah, the reason why I was really fascinated with Freckle was because of the journey that I started in terms of like, okay, great, I'm a one man a founder-led sales team in the sense that like I'm the one who brings in the deal for the business, looking to change that one day down the line, this year. But what I want to be able to do is whoever we bring in, I want to say, hey, here is the workflow. Here is the ingredients that we know lead to success. Like we've always grown our business personally with brand, with content, and it's all been a manual process. These social signals that we drive has all been okay, lots of tabs open and lots of data points
Yeah.
spread across different tools, as it were. It's really manual. And it was only when I started literally seeing content from yourself and others within the space, I was like, there's actually a way, way better way of doing this, right? Like, and again, initially it's super overwhelming because it's like there is so many tools, so many things, so many promises that are fundamentally made from all of these tech stacks that are they really true? Is it going to be accurate data? Is it going to, you know what I mean? So I love the position you guys have taken and I love the show and don't tell approach. And I also love the fact that, considering Clay's been around for, a hot minute and it's as a power player as it were, like you guys, your names
Yeah.
are always side by side, right? Like it's always a case of like, and I think that says a lot, right? It says a lot about how you guys are positioning yourself and how good your tool actually is. So guys, you know what to do if you listen to this, guys. Referrals down below. Andy will hook us up. Andy will hook us up.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
It's good to hear it's working. It's good to hear it's working.
So, obviously, you're a tools for tools brand, tools for tools people brand, as you guys have highlighted. So, how do you guys leverage media? I know we've spoken about this a lot. So, how do you leverage
Yeah.
media and social selling to prove that Freckle isn't just another AI tool, but it's actually a workflow change? We've touched on it, but like, give us a high level overview.
I think like even taking a step back from that, I think there's like a lot to learn about individual influencers at brands.
Mhm.
I think employees becoming influencers in the space, or
Big
influencer is
thing.
the wrong word. No one's an
Yeah.
influencer, but like
Bra- uh,
being like a thought
brand,
leader, an educator.
yeah, brand
I
advocate,
mean,
right?
we're not posting in Mykonos on some blue water. I've been
True, it's
pushing
true.
for it, uh, but like having individuals at the company like jointly owning a company's public image, like Lovable is a really good example of that. Their head of growth has
Fantastic.
like 100K plus followers on LinkedIn, and but they have like 8 people there plus that are posting and building up brands. And so like at Freckle, we're not nameless. Like we're not a faceless company. Like the people at our company matter. And in the go to market world, people are on LinkedIn. Like it's where people are hanging out in the space. It's where they're getting educated and connecting with others and even, finding leads. And so it helps us scale reach, like especially in the AI space. I think like there's so much unauthentic content now of like, do XYZ, get this much money, comment this for whatever. Like I
Yeah,
think social spaces right now are trying to figure out how to deal with automated content, and
yeah,
it's really starting to reward quality expertise and brand authenticity. And so
yes.
it helps us, build a community. It helps us cultivate trust with the customers. And we don't want to gatekeep anything. Like we're genuinely interested in joining the conversation and talking about how we can make a RevOps person a growth or like whoever's life easier. And if we're going to be helping people learn, we got to meet them where they're at. And we have to be engaged members of that community as well if we want to be helpful. So, I'm posting about Freckle because I like genuinely think it's an incredible product. I use it all the time.
I bet.
But the things I post on LinkedIn are about like actual workflows that I'm doing that solve like actual problems in my day to day. And so I think that really builds trust with our current customers, with prospects. And like, you know, on the subject of unsexy, like I like doing this stuff. Like it's fun for me. Uh, I'm such a nerd about go to market stuff. And it turns out like apparently a lot of other people are too,
Of course,
because
man.
teaching, sharing what we're doing is a really good way of like building community and building up the brand. Like apparently, surprisingly, people are kind of interested in what we're doing. So it's been a
But
great
of
journey so far.
but it makes sense, right? Because I think as we discussed at the start, there's a big shift that everybody's seeing when it comes to how customers are acquired, how you win business, how you find new opportunities and drive pipeline, right? And as you said, fundamentally, at the end of every activity that every single business does, the end goal is how to drive more revenue. Like that's where like that's the that's the home run, right? And
Y-
from year to year with technology, with AI, how you do that shifting. And we always tell people the reality is that most founders want to know how to acquire more customers for less money.
Mhm.
That is
Mhm.
the dream of every single founder, regardless of their enterprise, regardless of whether they are, startup. They just started up yesterday. I think the reason why people are really interested in the shift is because it is about personalization these days. It is about meeting customers as of when they want to buy. It is about in tracking as individuals, so we can be in a position to continue nurturing them, to create opportunities to further down the
Yep.
line, right? Or as you said, like all the qualified opportunities that are already in your pipeline, are you making the most of them? Maybe you didn't sell to them, for example, like last week, last month, last year. Are you making the most of them? So I think that is why people are fundamentally way more interested in this new world, because it's no longer just for the enterprise client. It's now a
Yep.
case of, you can be a scrappy startup and you can compete massively with some of these tools in play. You don't need to have, as you said, like a 100-person company to drive 100
Yeah.
million, ARR. You can be a 10-person company and drive 100 million ARR. That's such a bigger flex. And behind that
Yeah.
infrastructure, like these tools and these workflows are very much what is driving all of this forward. So it makes sense whether it's a big shift, and I'm excited to see, man, how it continues to evolve, right? Like massively. It's gonna be really exciting.
Yeah, I mean, 100%. Like, I think our goal is to be like a consumer friendly product, like a consumer software product with enterprise scale. So, like, having the power of those enterprise tools, but it's easy for anyone to pick up. And like, the goal is to, fill up that top of funnel. You want like tons of fish in that pond. Uh, but automated outreach is starting to be like people see through it. Everyone knows
Yeah.
that it's automated. Like you can no
Yeah.
longer put a first line in your message about the college the person went to, and they're like,
Yeah.
"Oh wow, I can't believe this person reached out to me so uniquely." Um,
Yeah.
like I'm a huge advocate for human in the loop automation, where like we do a lot of manual outreach. Like I have an automated message that goes out to people when they sign up, but any high priority lead that comes in, I'm trying to call, I'm trying to text, I'm sending potentially a video to them of me,
Yeah.
and
Free
you have
resource.
to like,
Yeah.
yeah, you got to like differentiate from those automated processes to give that real level of authenticity that you're actually someone that they can talk to, and not just like, who cares unless they're asking. Like if I'm actually reaching out and I'm like, hey, I'm the head of growth at Freckle, like I like genuinely want to know, like, what are you doing? Why are you coming to us? Like, let me see if
Yeah.
I can help.
And again, I think going back just to kind of, like, I guess, wrap this up in the sense of engineering those types of conversations from
Yeah.
like a content perspective, and I think what you guys have highlighted that you do already, and it's working really well. It is ensuring that you are producing content that drives the right types of conversations, right? Like speaking to your customers every single day, whether you, again, regardless of where you are within your time frame, understanding their pain points, understanding the genuineness behind why you're doing X, Y, and Z, and so on and so on and so on. That informs, I'm sure, your content strategy. So the next time you're thinking of a post, it's like, hey, I spoke to Greg last week and, he's not a client yet, but he told me that he's having this problem. And, this is something I think a lot of people struggle with. So why don't we, build a workflow? Why don't we share X? Why don't we share Y? You start to engineer content that is very much aligned with the people that you help, which then drives the signals that you want to be driving. And then, of course, where Freckle and these workflows come into play, where you can track the signals. And again, it can be a loop that will never end, right? Like if it's done correctly, it's done in a way of which there is human intervention, that hybrid workflow you spoke
Yeah.
about. It can be so rewarding and so massively beneficial, and cost saving, from the traditional methods that people typically use to grow. So yeah, big fan of how you guys approach
Yeah.
things, and yeah, no, love to share, man. Thank you so much. So I
Yeah, no
guess
problem.
alpha takeaway. If a go-to-market leader wants to move from blind outbound, as you've highlighted, is not working as well as it used to these days, to interest-based selling, what is one simple experiment that they can run using Freckle over the next 30 days to prove that timing beats volume every single time?
It's a good question. Excuse me. Uh, One simple experiment you should run with Freckle over the next 30 days is to test whether you can increase conversion on inbound uh, by like focusing attention on your higher quality inbound leads. So I would say like sit down, talk about what your ideal inbound lead looks like, define like who they are, where they work. A lot of people will already have that locked down, some people don't. And then just go into Freckle, type in exactly what you're looking for in a person. And then Freckle can go in, automatically find data about your inbound lead, categorize them into whatever, scoring criteria you set, and then get all the contact information to fill in the holes for your reps. And then just like try prioritizing those top accounts first, see how it goes. Know who your tier one leads are immediately. And like the experiment would be like if you can decrease the time between inbound and following up for that top tier segment,
Yeah,
does that influence your conversion rate? So
yeah,
like we have this customer, name's Phone Burner. They switched to Freckle from Clay because Clay's HubSpot sync takes 24 hours. So when new records come into HubSpot, it takes a while to get into Clay to enrich. With Freckle, it only takes 5 minutes. So it was
Mic drop, flex, flex, flex.
it was taking them too long to respond to demo requests.
If that, you know them freestyles. If there was like a
Yeah,
roll it back. No, that's cool. That's amazing.
Yeah, they do a lot of cool stuff. PhoneBurner does. They draft like personalized outbound using recent news about the company or industry, which is cool. But what was funny with them was their reps were saying that people were thinking that it was an automated follow-up because they were reaching out so quickly with such good quality responses that people assumed that it had to be automated actually. So they ended up putting an intentional delay on it to feel a little more authentic.
Imagine being too good. Too good,
Yeah.
you have to put some imperfection in there. Do you know what I mean? It's equivalent of like removing the M dashes or like within your LinkedIn post, adding some mistakes. This was not written by ChatGPT, guys.
So yeah. I guess when you're doing the test, try to give your rep some grace. Respond after like 10 minutes. And I think I would be surprised if it doesn't work. I think it's from a lot of the customers that we work with, it's proved that if you can leverage your data the right way, you have like direct impact on your sales goals and revenue.
Yeah, amazing. That I can't lie. That's an amazing workflow for someone to try out. Of course, I'm sure there'll be links wherever they are to try out Freckle themselves. And yeah, well, thank you so much, man, for sharing that. I'm very excited to see the results if people are rolling those out. Of course, it's been a masterclass in why relevance is the new scale. We covered a couple of high-level points going to go over. So how to find point of interest signals without a technical degree. I think that came across exceptionally clearly. Thank you so much, Andy, for that. Why simplicity is the intimate wedge against obviously complex competitors. And again, how you guys are standing out and positioning yourself, which I think is fantastic. And how to turn unsexy, although I know you very much think and data problems are sexy as you've highlighted. So let's we'll reframe it. We're reframing it into obviously high growth brand narratives. So yeah, guys, if you're listening to this and you want to start guessing and start turning your timing into your outreach into perfectly timed outreach to reach people as of when they need you, go check out Freckle.io. Once again, guys, thank you so much for joining us on Go to Market Gurus Unplugged. It's been another awesome episode, and Andy, thank you so much, my guy.
Yeah, it was a blast. Thanks for having me.
Appreciate it. No worries at all.